I know, it feels like you're on Oprah, doesn't it?
I
But like a
know.
white 26-year-old male version of her.
You're 26?
Yeah.
Ah, neat. How fun.
Oh, I thought you were 47.
Yeah. I was a bellman
Oh.
at 26.
Well, we have a bell somewhere. We could.
Thank you. It'll still, I always feel like I could go back to it.
Shall we?
From a warehouse in Van Nuys, it's Friend in High Places. And now, here's your host, Matt Friend.
Guys, it's another Friend in High Places, and this time I am genuinely, unbelievably excited because he is one of my favorite writers, people in Hollywood, people in life. We've only met a couple of times, but this person's Instagram makes me genuinely cry laughing out loud.
Oh.
And he has a brand new book called We Are Experiencing a Slight Delay, and you all have to go read it. It is the once-in-a-generation talent, Gary Janetti.
Thanks, Matt. Wow. Well, yeah, that's quite an intro.
Do you like it?
Yeah. No, I love it. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah.
What else can I say?
And I love that this is very Oprah-esque.
It is
that
a
we
little.
have. Yeah.
It's kind of Oprah.
Yeah, I
you
love
walked in
this.
here, you're like, we're gonna do a podcast, but no, we're doing a TV
dressed
show.
for a podcast.
You look
so,
great.
Yeah, this
Well-
is podcast clothes.
Well, I
that
wasn't
I'm wearing.
expecting crazy outfits because
Yeah.
you're known, and you do so many interviews now, but you're known for traveling without checking a bag.
Is that what I'm known for?
Well,
for
on the-
traveling without checking a bag.
In terms of your,
Yeah.
let's not talk about your illustrious
yeah,
writing
but
career,
no,
Will and
do you
Grace.
check a bag?
You know,
It's a nightmare.
I have checked bags, and
Why?
now it's brutal.
Yeah,
It's brutal.
no, just all you need is like one other jacket
know.
and two more of those things that's underneath the jacket,
I'm
whatever that
into
is.
the clothing stuff.
Yeah.
Like I like going to events and looking.
Yes, so am I.
But-
you can do it, by the way.
You just
Yeah,
kind of
no, don't-
mismatch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't check a bag.
You
It's crazy.
in this book, and like you have so many. We're gonna get into your career. I want to get into the writing and the
Okay.
Family Guy
Yeah,
and everything.
Oh, God.
But the travel tips and insights are so spot on. And my favorite one is the observation, which occurs to me all the time, and I want to kill someone when this happens.
What?
When you land and
Oh.
you're just on the runway,
Oh.
and then the gate's not ready.
Yeah, and they
Why-
leave you there. You're on the plane. Everybody's like getting in your and it's like, oh, there's nobody. Yeah, we're waiting for a gate agent. I'm like, why?
Why?
Why are you waiting? Didn't they know we were coming? And you know it's some guy having a coffee
Chipotle running, as you
somewhere.
would
yeah,
say.
yeah, or what? Yeah, totally. And
Just
it's
went to go get
ending up
Chipotle.
his break, scrolling on his phone. It's like, oh, I get. And it's meanwhile there's 300 people waiting to get off this. Can I say fucking plane?
Fucking plane.
Yeah, this
What
fucking
is this?
plane.
C-SPAN?
Yeah, we're waiting for the gate agent. No, somebody needs to let the gate agent know before we land.
It's a miracle.
So they're there.
We're flying
Yeah.
in the air on an
It's
airplane.
completely- and now we have to wait for a gate agent.
What? It's so annoying.
Yeah, it's like 90% of the time too.
If
it was 1 in like 20, I'd be like, you know what? The gate agent was late on his break. You know, it's fine. He was talking to somebody. It happens, but it's all the time.
How do you feel about the fact that you have to not unrecline? What's the word? Would it be?
I don't know.
Like, your chair has to be upright when you're taking off and landing. What's the purpose of that?
Yeah, well, I think I'm fine with that. Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Why? You don't
Yeah.
care.
No, but I do think what you should do is, I know there's shade up or shade down people,
Yeah.
but I think you kind of should go with the majority.
Uh-huh.
Like I've been on a plane,
Yeah.
just my last flight, it was like we all had our shades down except the woman in front of me.
Yeah.
The shade up. I'm like, 99% of the shades are down.
Yes.
You're the only one creating this thing. You'd be like, I'm gonna join in,
Yeah.
shade down.
It's, especially if people are trying to sleep.
No, of
It's
course.
like, how
It's like,
off is your
yeah,
social...
we're creating a fake universe now.
Yeah.
So, and in this fake universe, it's dark and we're sleeping and we're quiet.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh.
but no, there's one person who's like, I want sunlight.
And there's so many... that's the worst.
Yeah.
Exit row?
The worst.
Thoughts on the exit row?
Well, it's, in business class, there's not really an exit
Yeah,
row.
yeah.
I don't
Gary
think of. I
Janetti
haven't
is
had
no
an exit-
longer in coach.
But I was in, by the way, also, yeah, I was in coach for many years.
Those
and
days are over.
I would do exit row always, yes.
Yeah.
But my exit row, I was definitely an exit row person, of course.
I'm pretty sure I did sit next to a blind guy in the exit row, and he literally answered, he's ready, willing, and able to assist.
Yeah.
That was a Family Guy
I also
moment.
think that's okay.
Yes.
Because what really is going to happen? What is the scenario where suddenly we're assisting people down the slide?
Yeah.
It's not happening. Take off your shoes, please. They said on the video, no heels. Thank you. You're next. Please keep the line. Like, I don't work for the airline.
No, you don't.
You know, I'm saying whatever I need to say to be able to stretch my feet another 2 inches.
Yeah. I am so like jealous of your Instagram and your observations because you're Seinfeldy. Like maybe Seinfeld is Gary Janetti-ish.
Oh,
Maybe
okay.
I'll flip it.
Yeah.
No, because you have these observations that are it feels like they're right out there for any person or comedian to take, and you put these things out there, and it feels like so simple. Like how did I not think of that? And it just
Oh, thanks.
It's brilliant.
Thanks. You know, usually it's like
I've never been on a vacation without seeing a man with his kids who looks like he can kill them.
You're mangling it.
I'm
Matt.
mangling
You're
it.
mangling
Yeah,
it.
you do it.
And then everybody watching or listening to
Yeah.
I didn't memorize it. It's meant to be read.
I should mangle.
But it is. People like do that all the time. Oh my God, I read your thing. And then it's like,
They mangle
how did
the
it
word.
go? Oh, I forgot. And there's other people. I'm like, please don't put me through
mangle.
this. Don't put me through this. And then it's like,
Don't redraw
and they're
the
telling the other person, it was so funny, da-da-da. And then they begin to recount it. You get one word wrong, as you know, and you fuck the whole thing up, you know, and you had mangled like 4.
Exactly.
You know, yeah. I've never seen a dad on vacation that didn't look like he could murder his entire family.
So you did remember.
I think I came to me while I was talking and stuff. And then they'll recount it and they'll get it wrong. The other person will be like, that wasn't funny.
Yeah.
And then I'm just standing there like, you know.
It's like,
yeah.
am I going to redraw the Mona Lisa? I should just, that's ridiculous.
But thank you.
Yes.
That's my way of saying thank you.
Well, I apologize for mangling your brilliant jokes.
No problem.
We met at the Family Guy office.
Yes, in the writer's room.
In the
actually,
writer's room.
Which many people don't ever go in.
That felt like a Make-A-Wish, truthfully.
We actually had a Make-A-Wish kid in the writer's room. And it was, I believe, we found out after the fact that it was the kid's second wish. Like it was not the first choice wish.
Oh, really?
Show.
Yeah, Simpsons was the
like
first choice.
It was something like that. You
Wow.
know? But
That's
you know,
crazy.
so he got his second wish, which was Family Guy.
That's
writer's room.
wild.
Yeah.
So we met, and it was so surreal because I'm sure people you encounter, they talk about what Family Guy has meant to them or whatever. But for me, genuinely, it was my childhood. Like it's the reason I wanted to do this.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And after getting to see your writing and learn a little about you, it's clear that so much of Stewie is kind of you. Is that accurate or no?
I don't know if I would say that. I just think, you know, when the show started, because I was on it from the beginning, but the first thing I was drawn to was Stewie, because there at the time, whatever this was, 98, I don't remember, it was a VHS tape, and Seth was part of his, I think, thesis at RISD or something, or it grew out of that, this presentation. So it was a pilot presentation that Fox then bought to series, and it was like 5 minutes long.
And then canceled. After
twice canceled.
Yeah.
And Stewie, when it came out, Stewie had a dart gun, and he shoots a dart out at Lois, and they all turn and look at him, and he says, "What the deuce are you staring at? It's tuna fish.
Are you staring
It's
at?
tuna fish and nothing else." And I'll never forget that moment, because as soon as I watched it, I was so drawn to him, and I thought, oh, I love this character, and this was something I hadn't seen before. And I met with Seth, and I really liked Seth. I was like, oh, I love his thing.
Yes.
Like whatever his thing is, I want to be a part of, because I really like it. But when it came time for me to write my episode, I think I wrote the 7th episode of the series. It was mostly about Brian. Brian, I remember, it was called Brian, Portrait of a Dog.
Yep.
And when it was my time to write it, you know, the show, we'd only been doing it, you know, whatever, a couple of months, not even.
The voice of the show
point.
wasn't quite what it is today.
But so everybody, all the other guys on the show, and at this point it was all guys, were writing him very science fiction focused, very wanting to kill his mother focused, all of that. And they were better at that than I was.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that they were better. They had more knowledge of that. Their take on it was funnier than mine ever would be. And I was like, I can either try to copy what they're doing and do a less good version of that, or I could write him like a little bitch, you know, like I could take it and I can do something else with it.
Yeah.
That's me, you know, put myself into it. And so that's kind of how I approached it. And then because Seth is very collaborative, and that was a part of his personality that then became a part of Stewie. But it was also, it's always learning lessons of like trusting your instincts. Never try to replicate what somebody else is doing. You will
Right.
never be. Well, I mean, you do impressions, so
Yeah,
I guess
yeah.
that's all you do is replicate. So, well, the exception that proves the rule. But that aside, no, never try to replicate what somebody else is doing
Yeah.
because you'll never do it as well. You have to find your own way in, for good or bad. If that works, great, and if it doesn't work, okay. But that's your only way. You can only bring what's authentic about yourself into it. That's the only thing that you can bring, that you have, that nobody else has,
'Cause you said in an interview, though, that sometimes you mask something horrible as if it's Stewie. Like you can like use Stewie to say things that you can't
well, I
say.
think yes.
I do this a
through
lot.
Family Guy. Of course, you can say horrible things, and I'll be like, "It's Stewie."
'Cause it's an animated character.
Yeah, and he can get away with it. And because the show's been on so long, I think it still has more latitude than, let's say, an animated show that would be starting today. I mean, on Will and Grace,
Prince.
It was similar. Thank you. It was similar with Karen. A character that can say terrible things, but you have this, Well, Stewie is such a, Seth is so brilliant at the way he's done. He's the nuances in his voice acting are really
incredible.
Quite extraordinary.
Incredible.
And have always been like that since like day one. But you can get away with so much more. So it is a nice outlet too of horrible thoughts.
Oh yeah, no,
I'm like, it's Stewie. It's not me.
Absolutely. I do this like in my I do a bit on stage where I do like Trump to say things that I can't say.
Yeah.
I'm like, sat next to a woman on a plane. Let's just say a little heavy set. Okay, needs a Peloton fast, but I didn't say it. He said it.
Yeah. It's,
Yeah. And also with
Yes,
animation, you can get away with things that you could not get away with, let's say if you were a sketch show or something.
Yeah, it is, you can get away with things in animation that you couldn't get away with elsewhere. And also, strangely, in animation, you can also have moments that are surprisingly tender that you wouldn't think that you could have, that people really care about.
Such as?
Those characters. There have been moments between Brian and Stewie. They have had. I wrote an episode. Anybody from Family Guy listening is going to be like, "Ugh, he's talking about that episode." I'm like, I am. Brian and Stewie, where they're locked in a bank vault
In the bank
together.
vault, and
But
there's no cutaways.
There's no cutaway. There's no
Yeah.
music. But it was kind of like how it was very. Curious to see how far the audience will go.
Yes.
Will the audience kind of go on this ride where it's a bit more emotional? It was the first time.
Like when Brian was killed.
Yeah, that also people.
That was
I did
devastating.
not write that one.
I was
so I won't be
devastated.
talking about that
Yes.
episode. Yeah, I will only talk about what I've written.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, of course, Brian was killed. It was devastating, and the fact that people really care about these characters was so, especially when the way the show started, there was more of an outrageousness to it. It wasn't. It didn't have many smaller moments or these bonds between the characters that kind of developed over time. So I think it's kind of terrific. And as a writer and as somebody who's been working on the show for on and off for a really long time, it's very, it's very creatively kind of like satisfying because you can go to all these different places that you actually can't go to on a typical live action show.
Thoughts on the chicken fight?
Yeah, the chicken fight. I like the chicken fights.
Do you like the chicken
Yeah, I like the
fights?
chicken fights. It's one of them. Sometimes I'll come around to something. At the beginning, I was kind of like, okay. Not everything's gonna
Let's
be
fast
your
forward.
thing,
Yeah.
on it and stuff. But yeah, I would be like the beginning. I'm like, I just won't watch this one. But
Yeah.
it's yeah. But the way it evolved, I love.
Yeah.
I love the way
They've
the way it
gotten
evolved.
so much crazier. At the
They've
beginning,
got
it's
so
like,
much-
what's going
Also,
on?
the animators on the show.
The animator, yes.
are so. I mean,
Brilliant.
yeah, they are so extraordinary. Every element of it, the kind of it's all in service of the comedy, which is it's something working on it. I've learned more about comedy and about so many things just
Yeah.
from being on that show.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I was brought into that Family Guy world through Rich Appel,
Yeah, Rich,
our mutual
yeah.
friend.
Yes, we love
Fantastic.
Rich.
We do. We love Rich. We really do. But being paid to say that. No. But and then when I went in there, I just observed it seemed like this collection of the most like just brilliant people. And how when you're in a room like that with, what is it, 12 people around the room,
Yeah, well, there's more on the show, but in any
in the
given
writer's room.
yeah, at any given time, there could be, there could be 12, 15, 6, but yeah.
What is one thing that people don't know about the Family Guy writer's room?
What's one thing? I don't know. Do people even think about it? It's usually...
I do.
Yeah, it's very democratic. It's like, and I think it's kinder than people would think. I think it's I can only speak for, I'm speaking for currently. But I think it's kinder than people would think, and it's best joke wins. I mean, which is always best joke wins. You're always, I think the best writers are always the most confident to have somebody else's joke to be able to be like, that's funnier. Like, I'm always...
And that's why the show works so well then.
Yeah, when somebody has a better joke. It's like you want, somebody to kind of top it. And you want somebody also to think of something that you would never think of, And there are so many writers in that show.
You've got to be that guy for a lot of people.
Oh, that's nice. Because I was thinking about the people who are that for me,
And who would those people?
Well, I'm just going to... Alex Sulkin is somebody like that.
Alex
the way
Sulkin,
he is, like, he'll say something
We love
make
Alex
me
Sulkin.
laugh. So, and it's so, like, it'll be so clever and twisted, and I'll know. I'm like, if you left me in this room for 10 years, I would have never thought of that line. It's just not something I would have ever thought of. So I love things like that. Whereas oftentimes in comedy rooms, somebody will say a joke and they'll get the credit and they'll laugh and it'll be good. But it's a joke that in another half hour at maximum, three other people would have said it.
Yes.
It's kind of like, somebody discovered that gold, that was just there. It's like, it's kind of more apparent that it still could be funny and clever, but they got there first. And those are fine, but that's not the stuff that's really like the stuff that I'd be like, I would never think of that. And it's usually also, I think this people wouldn't know about the writer's room at Family Guy. I've been on and off that show for 25 years, and I'll still get nervous before I pitch. Like, I'll still be like, oh God, is this good? Is this anything? And there are so many times, Matt, that you'll pitch, and I often write things out because that's just kind of, I'll write it on my script, or I'll just jot it down so people, or just spit it out. But I like to kind of write it out typically. And there are times where I'll be like, this is a good one. Like, I think this is going to be a good one. And I do it, and crickets, nothing. And it's like, oh, fuck. It's like, that was a real stinker. Why? It sounded so good in my head. And then there'll be another thing where you're like, oh, this is probably nothing. Maybe I'm not even going to say this. Oh, there's the tiniest pause right now. I'll just spit this thought out. Huge laugh. And you're like, oh my God, I was so close to not saying that because I thought it was nothing. And it's like, now I can go home. Like that was, my work here is done for the day. And I didn't know. So it's always that kind of, there's always a little bit of, I think, fear, in it that I think keeps things a little,
still, which is interesting.
Yeah, always. Well, you want to be good, I don't think you can't rest on something you wrote 10 years ago. Nobody cares. You're current. It's alive. You're in it. And I think everybody, I would imagine most people in the room would agree with me that there's always a little bit of fear of, like, when you're pitching.
There's been, like, accusations online of, like, Family Guy becoming woke. Have you seen those before?
No,
like,
I haven't.
Well, like with the vaccine episode, right? Wasn't there like a COVID vaccine episode?
I didn't see it.
Or there was like a blur. But what do you think? Because obviously comedy has to evolve with the times.
Yeah.
And like I see it, there's this whole conversation in comedies, particularly in stand-up. People say you can't say anything anymore.
Yeah.
But those people are the same people that are selling out arenas that are saying that.
I know.
So there's an irony to that.
There is definitely an irony to it.
And people evolve. And like, okay, like don't go for the cheap, like stupid racist joke.
I agree.
You can be like you and be brilliant and use words, not mangle them like I do. But what are your thoughts on like, does comedy need to evolve and does Family Guy need to evolve with the times, or can it just kind of be what it's always been?
I think the Family Guy has done a good job personally of threading that needle of evolving and going and moving as the show it continues, and as we go on, there are just jokes we would not make now. You just don't. They just land differently.
Gonna tell us all about the rain.
Yeah, it's like there are so many. There are things that I think you would, and they can even, and weirdly, you can still laugh at it because it's like, oh, this was 20 years ago, so we kind of have, they're grandfathered in a little. But I don't think there's anything wrong with evolving. I don't think there's anything wrong with recognizing that, oh, these jokes, while we thought that they were funny, they were actually kind of lazy and maybe hurtful to a segment of people. And how do you be more clever? How do you say what you want to say? Maybe spend 10 more minutes thinking about that, as opposed to spending those 10 minutes bemoaning how the fact that comedy is dead or you can't say anything anymore, which I kind of, don't agree with. Maybe, maybe people might get more offended more quickly now than they did. Because you used to have to write a letter or call somebody. Now you just type a comment. And it's like, but I don't think there's anything wrong with kind of growing and being in the world of today and not trying to, because then things also then have a stink of it feels dated too. It feels like it's not, it's not 1990 something.
Right.
When the show started anymore.
You also started as a writer on Will and Grace and worked your way up to becoming the showrunner of Will and Grace.
That was actually also during in a time when Family Guy was canceled, because I was on Family Guy. I was on Family Guy before Will and Grace, actually.
Isn't that, when you look back, because sometimes, like, especially for me, like at this moment, it's hard to appreciate what you're doing. Like, were you realizing that Will and Grace, Family Guy, that you were in something special, or did you not really quite realize it at the time? Because those are two of the most iconic shows in the past 50 years. Right?
50.
Even 25 years.
Yeah.
20 years.
No, I mean, that's...
110 years.
Will and Grace, I wasn't on from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I was aware of what it was when I joined the show. And as a gay writer who'd never written on a show with a gay protagonist before, it was something that I thought, this might be... and it was a hit, it wasn't like it was like a top 10 show. I was like, this is something I'll probably look back on and recognize that this was a special kind of period of time.
Yeah.
And I had.
Yeah.
I actually recently watched it for the first time.
What was that like?
Because I hadn't watched it. I hadn't seen a lot of the episodes from before I joined the show. And when you're on the show, you don't typically watch them because you're working on them the whole time, And it was really funny. I was like, oh my God, it's like, it really, I thought
Did it trigger any memories of writing it or working on it?
I was watching the stuff that I wasn't there for because you can just enjoy it more, you know what I mean? And then Family Guy, I'll typically watch it on an airplane. Like, it's my airplane show. My airplane show is Family Guy.
Sit next to you in business class on an airplane and see you watching Family Guy.
Yeah, many times whenever it's on, I'll be watching it. And then I'll text Alec and Rich. I remember recently, I'll be like, I watched this episode that I had never seen. Because, you're not there for every episode.
Yeah, there's so many episodes.
And I was laughing out loud. It was so funny. It was such a good episode. It might have been from like a year previous or something that I hadn't seen or worked on. But, so it's so nice when you can be like objective. And I'll be like, oh, I really, can just enjoy it.
Oh yeah.
But that's typically when I'll watch it.
And it's the ultimate comfort food show.
Yeah, it is.
The ultimate.
And it's funny how the things I remember and don't remember, because it's so there aren't many shows that last that long.
It's ridiculous.
So it's weird to have a relationship with it. Like, I'll remember some jokes from 20 years ago that I'll be like, oh, I remember this moment.
Yes.
I remember being in the room. I remember writing this, I'll remember this kind of thing, and I don't know why a certain thing will stick. And then other things, I'm like, I have no memory of this at all, of doing this.
As a writer on Family Guy, what's been the number one hardest moment you've laughed in the writer's room?
Oh, the hardest moment I've laughed in the writer's room. That's hard to say. I can't really imagine.
Does anything stick out?
I can't think of... I remember laughing really hard with Mike Barker, who went on with Matt Weitzman to create American Dad with Seth. in like the second year.
Love that for you.
Where I think we were getting like some kind of sensitivity training or something like that. They were there, and it had nothing to do with the show, but it kind of spoke. It was just like something. It was something ridiculous that we both found funny, and we could not stop laughing. Like I remember laughing so hard that I hadn't laughed,
Seriously?
that hard.
Sensitivity
I don't
training.
even know if I. Yeah, I think it was something like that when they came in, and this was pre the kind of it was all loosey goosey then.
Oh yeah.
It was like, what's this? It's like, why are you doing sensitivity training here of all places? I remember us laughing very, very hard during that. But I've laughed, so much. It's kind of like, it's a great thing because it's a gift in any writer's room and when you're on a show and you're working with people who are super talented and super funny. Because, your actual real life is going on. And like in anybody's real life, there are days that are terrible where you do not feel like laughing. You don't know how you're going to be funny. It's not like I go in and I'm like, I think I'm going to be funny.
It just has to happen.
Yeah, you just have to be open to whatever is going to happen.
The creative act.
And you'll find yourself kind of laughing and it's like, oh God. Yeah. I mean, it is kind of like a gift to be able to be like, oh, I was in such a shit mood when I got here today because of all this stuff. And I didn't think I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to be even slightly amusing or find anything funny today because of this other thing going on. And suddenly, in 10 minutes, she'll be like,
Something
oh my God,
genius.
you're just laughing and you're kind of like, and you can
like when you're not expecting it.
You can kind of click into it and then you're kind of, it's also always, it's a great thing, specifically in that room I found, because, partially I've spent so much time in it.
Yes.
But people build off each other really terrifically there. It's just a great place where it's like, what if this, or, and what writing monologues or whatever it is, people are just building on what the other person is saying. And it kind of then makes you kind of like,
raise your game.
Yeah, and it's like also, it ignites some other thing that you think of, it sparks something else that you would never have thought of if the other thing didn't come. And in that room, it's so much of that. I think because the episodes have to be so dense. I mean, it's very hard. It's almost like being on that show. I always feel bad when somebody's new is starting on that show because it's been on for so long, and it's akin to like learning a language. It's like you have to learn the language.
It's like a shorthand.
Every show you have to learn a language of, but that show has a very specific the language of the show. And it's a thing that, now I speak it, fluently after so long.
Yeah.
But it's a very specific thing, and it's a hard show to write because it really is it forces you to kind of think more expansively and more creatively and more openly about what can be funny, and you want to utilize, kind of like everything. And then you have everything is open to you because the world is open to you, and it's farcical. Elements of it are farcical and satirical and earnest and slapstick and everything. And then on top of that, you have cutaways, which can take you to anywhere in the universe at all times. There's all
Conway Twitty.
Yeah, which there were people.
How do you think I learned about Conway Twitty?
I knew that, and there were people who hated that in the room at the beginning because that was early, and I was on the side of loved it. I was like, any absurdist comedy like that. I know people did, and you probably know Shapoopy from Family Guy.
Shapoopy.
Did you know what that's
everything? It's from The Music Man.
Right, but did you know that at the time?
I actually did not.
Yeah.
And I was Mayor Shin in 7th grade.
Oh, fantastic.
And I know the entire You Got Trouble song.
Yeah, I
Also.
know. It's a great song. Yeah, I know. But that's how so many people
Learned it from Family Guy.
How great is that?
I've learned an unfortunate amount of my references from Family Guy. I learned what like a shifferobe is from Family Guy.
Yeah.
Put your keys on the knickerbockers.
Yeah, the shifferobe.
It's like when Brian's dating the woman who seems old or something.
Yeah.
These are things
I think that was Lauren Bacall she was somebody else. There's always... Yeah, there and these extraordinary guest actors.
I learned what a prom night dumpster baby is.
Yeah,
I know
that was a good.
I'm gonna have to do it. I'm so sorry.
Please do.
I'm just a prom night dumpster baby. I got no mom or dad. Just a prom night dumpster baby. My story is long, but boy, it's awfully sad. And though I came from a hole,
so you gonna do the whole song?
From a hole, I'm singing straight from the soul.
I'm gonna do some water now.
Straight from the soul. My fanny needs a blanket and somebody to spank it. I miss my mom, but she's at the prom. I'm just a prom night dumpster baby. Prom night dumpster baby. And I'm taking a stroll. I'm sorry.
That was one of my favorite numbers, though.
I
my favorite musical
apologize.
numbers. That's okay.
I
enjoyed
like
it.
holding
I got to have one.
this accomplished person hostage while I have to
Yeah,
sing
yeah,
their
please
song to their
do.
face.
I
But you
feel
didn't
like
write
I've
that.
been talking a lot.
Did you write that?
I did not write that.
Oh.
I've never written a song.
I
I
regret
think I
this.
have one lyric. I think I have one lyric ever in all of the songs on the Disney one where they're all like doing the Disney number, like you know,
Interesting.
yeah, like
I got to
that
ask
very
you,
Disney-esque one. But that was it ever.
because cutaways are like, well, it's one of the most iconic features of Family
Yeah.
Guy. I always think of setting up a joke. Oh my God, this interview is even worse than the time Paul
Yeah.
Giamatti did. I've been trying to like think about if there's a way to do that in stand-up, like to experiment with a live cutaway.
Probably.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah,
What-
they're a nightmare to write.
Yeah, talk to me about why are
I'm just like,
cutaways?
ugh.
Why are cutaways?
I don't want to
and
be in a cut. Please don't put me in a cutaway room.
Wait.
It's
There's
like,
a cutaway room at
Yeah.
Family Guy.
Yeah.
There's a dedicated room to write cutaways.
Well, it's not always there. It depends on what's going on that day, but many days, I would say even most days. Well, let's say you do a table read or it comes back in
Yes.
Mathematic and you watch it or you do the table read and two cutaways don't work, right? Or they're not great or they're not, you know, it's like, we need to beat it. So then a room, or before you get to that stage,
Yeah.
after the writer writes the draft, you could feel like you could beat one of the cutaways. So a room goes off of like 5 people and a writer's assistant, and you come up with, you spend the day in the room, or half a day in the room, and you come up with maybe 5 cutaways.
Wow.
Which, again, could be anything in the world, which is a nightmare. And then you basically come in and perform it.
Wow,
And
you do
to
it
the rest
live.
of the room. Yeah, you'll come in and you'll perform it. And we
Can you give me
assign
an example?
parts. I can't because I'd need a script. I mean, it's literally
Yeah.
like, but you would have a script and whoever's in the room, we would assign the parts and the
That's
cutaway. And then you
crazy.
go back in the writer's room and you perform it to the other writers. And whichever gets the biggest laugh is the one that gets in the script. And then
That's
oftentimes the people who voiced it in the room will actually voice it on the show.
Wow.
You know, not all of them, but there are a lot of writers on the show that also will do voices and cutaways and things like that. And it's typically, because they pitched it in the room and stuff like that.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and it could be like, you're like, ugh, and then there could be a day where, you know, you don't make a sale. Like you go back in and it's like, and none of them collect, none of them work. So it's like the next day, another group of people will have to go out and kind of take another stab at it. Or conversely, you could get like 3 good ones in it and it's like you can bank maybe 2 of them and hope you can, you know, use it, you know, on the other time and other time. But it's like a factory, Matt. Yeah, it's always the cutaways. And I'm like,
it's like a dream.
please, the cutaway room. I'm like,
I've been lucky because you guys have been starting to write me into a few episodes, and I just did Tucci for you guys. A Stanley
I
Tucci
love
one.
your Stanley Tucci,
And-
by the way.
thank you,
I think
E.
I
Rowling.
commented how much I love it.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Gary. I love your new novel. Well, it's not a novel, it's more of a book. Whatever.
But anyways, no, I'm imagining the process of like writing a cutaway like that. Like it just cuts to Stanley Tucci, or I did like a Howard Stern reading the audiobook of what's the Joy Luck Club, and I go, look at all these Asian babes. Right. I didn't say it. That's a Howard line in the show. I'm just imagining like a writer pitching that.
Yeah.
That's a wild thing to do.
Yeah.
And then you have to kind of act it out.
Yeah.
Even though
there's
it's
a
an
lot
animated
of
show.
performance kind of elements
Oh.
to the show that also add to the whole
Incredible.
thing of, you know, anxiety and fear.
We're going to move on from Family Guy, but I do have to know,
Yes.
what would be Stewie Griffin's biggest travel complaint?
Oh, what would Stewie Griffin's biggest travel complaint be? That is a really good one. It would be when you could hear the TV in the room next to you when somebody's got their TV on. It'd be like,
hell do you
how loud? Is it a normal volume they're calling down at the desk? I can't tell if they're listening to the television at a normal volume, if it's particularly loud. Is it the rooms? Is it the walls in your hotel? If somebody could just come up for a second, I hate to be a bother.
It's not okay.
I hate to be a bother.
Let's try to
I
go to
won't let it
sleep.
bother me. Though. I'll just, I will, and then it would be like he'd slowly be unraveling because he could. Am I still hearing it? I think no. oh fuck, I hear it. It's still going on.
You're,
Yeah, that would be
that
the
was very
biggest,
good.
That would be the biggest.
Your
nightmare.
Stewie is really good. And actually, is really good. And actually, when I did a Family Guy table read on Zoom, and you did Stewie, you were doing
Yeah.
Seth's characters.
I'm no, not Seth, just Stewie.
Okay.
Because Seth has many characters.
But-
I'm table read. I'm Stewie understudy.
That's
you know,
so
I'm
funny.
yeah, at the table reads. Because
Under Stewie.
yeah, under Stewie. Yes. So it's a different thing. It's like you hope to capture like the essence of it. It's not like anybody's
But it's
gonna
also tricky 'cause you
mistake
were
me
just-
for Seth.
Yeah.
But
Because you were describing his genius vocal nuances and his performances.
yeah, so you just hope, so you're not going to get that because nobody's
Nobody's him.
nobody is him. I've never seen anything or heard anything like it from the very first episode, the first table read. I remember going to the people at 20th, the development people, because I had a development deal there at the time, and I had like a meeting or something, and I was like, have you seen I've never seen anything like this.
Yeah.
Like, what I'm like, I think he's brilliant. Like, it was, he was 24 at the time or something, and it was so
Right.
new, but it was so, and I've never changed how I felt watching, when he does it. It's kind of like, I was like, oh yeah, nobody can kind of, it's a very special kind gift that you can't replicate.
What is it like working with Seth MacFarlane so closely?
Well, it's been a while. I haven't worked with him in a while, since he's been on the show on a day-to-day basis. I don't even know how many years it's been at this point. But fantastic. Seth will think of things and that you would not. It's what I was saying about, Alec. Seth is like, will think of things that you would not have thought of, and he'll find what's funny about things that you might not recognize why that's funny.
Right.
And then he also will champion the ideas and the things that he thinks that he believes in. And then he believes in it. And he was always like that. He always felt very strongly about what he felt would work. And he was never dissuaded from that with maybe somebody who might have had more hours experience working in television or been part of this show or that show. He'd be like, this is what it is. And it's because of that, that fierce understanding of what it was that he wanted to do and how true he always was to himself, and the musical components that are part of the show, all of that, it's what has made the show so special and so unique. And I think he had an innate sense of that, certainly trusting his own instincts and wanting to do that regardless, no matter what anybody else around him said, made a big impression on me.
Because when did he step away from the show?
I don't know. We'd have to ask Rich and Alec.
Well, I was
yeah,
going to say,
I'm
but
not
that's
sure
what makes
how
the
many
work of
years.
you and also Rich and Alec so impressive, because like when does that happen where the creator of a show steps aside and it still maintains its level?
Well, it's also, there's
and that's a credit to Richard
there's
Pell
a very,
and Alec.
this is
Sulkin.
a sports metaphor, but there's a very deep bench. Am I using
for
it
sure.
correctly?
Very
there's
good.
a very deep bench, and it's the most talented writers.
Insane.
It's an insane group of talented writers, and many of them have been on the show for many, many years and have,
They get the language.
Yeah, and really, are such integral parts of what makes that show that show.
I want to talk about The Prince.
Okay.
So fans of Gary Janetti, and people should know that Gary created and starred an HBO Max animated show called The Prince.
Yeah.
Based off of the modern royal family.
Correct.
Lasted one season.
Yes.
Should have been more seasons, and
Thank
maybe it'll
you.
come back one day.
Yeah, I don't think so.
It could, but
it's not.
How did this happen? Like, where did the idea come from?
Well, it came from my Instagram. I did memes about
Prince
George, and
so funny.
there was a period of time, and that they went viral. So I get, like, I didn't think it was going to be anything. It was just something that made me laugh. It's always just do the thing that amuses you, that I feel like, and I didn't think anything would ever come of it. It was like a random meme. And then I did a few more, and then I just started building the world out, and it kind of started catching on. And off of that, 20th asked if I would want to turn it into an animated show, which I had unbeknownst to them, been literally around the same time thinking, like, I think this could be a show. And I did a season at HBO Max, and then I actually wrote the second season because they picked up all the scripts for the second season. And but yeah, we didn't go forward. I believe the royal family was not too pleased with the show.
I was not pleased at all, Gary.
Yeah, so
On behalf of King Charles,
they-
how dare you make
Yeah.
money off of my grandchild?
yeah,
It's terrible.
that's exactly how they felt.
Yes.
No, they were not happy with it, and I think nobody wanted to deal with the controversy of having displeased the royal family. Like it
Are they
was
pleased with the crown?
more pleased than than the prince.
Oh,
I
come
think they
on.
were relentless about
Seriously?
it. Yeah, it was a thing. Like
So the
to
royal
get it.
family canceled your show.
Basically, yes.
That's kind of cool.
I
though.
know, and I'm from Queens. Like I grew up
Yeah,
in
that's also what
Queens.
makes it cooler
and
too.
and the royal family.
queen
like,
canceled the kid from Queens.
Yeah, exactly. I know it's very meta, but yeah.
It
So,
was. Did you have any Prince Andrew references in there?
did we have any Prince Andrews? No, I don't even think he was ever mentioned.
He's coming on the show next week. Yeah.
Yeah, that shit was so dark that it was
Oh,
just
very.
like I was like, "There's nothing we
How-
can do with this."
This is amazing though, because you had an idea for a show, and you just described you started to build out the world. I feel like in life, so many people lack an ability to like actually put their thoughts and their ideas into action and to make it happen. So you actually made this show happen. And I was like, that's got to be a dream for 99.99% of people to actually have a real show like that and a season's worth of it.
Thanks.
What-
I like that you're coming from it as the,
No,
the place of
taking the
success
positives.
as opposed to failure. Because
No.
usually people come to it things
No,
as, by
it's
the
a
way,
success.
I do see,
But
think of that.
What
you know?
was that process like? You said you started to build out the world. How does a Gary Janetti build that world out?
You know, I think when you recognize, like, oh, it's going to be like in that case, the royal family, and this is a satire, but what else is in this world?
Yeah.
And what would be like, why does it need to be animated? What could be? And there were these creatures that lived underneath the cat. Like, what are these kind of elements that you could kind of, what would be fun? What would make this really fun? I think the perception that a lot of people outside the industry are just starting in it too. I always feel like people don't recognize how much work is actually involved in
It's
everything.
crazy.
Well, you know, how long have you been doing this now? And you're like, oh, you have to hustle. Like I'm working. Like I
It's
am.
a lot.
You know, you have to generate everything, and you have to. And you
Create
know,
it
getting
or
a
nothing.
show, just getting a show out from your head out onto a TV, getting anything out into the world is really much harder than anything should be. You know, you always get to a point where you're like, if I knew this was going to be such a fucking nightmare a year ago when I first
wouldn't
pitched
have.
this idea, but now here I am
Yeah.
so far along the road. And it's like, it takes also, you know, I mean, talent, yes, but a tenacity that you need.
Relentlessness. Yeah.
Relentlessness.
Relentlessness. I
Relentlessness.
believe.
Thank you. What did
Yeah,
I'm
one of-
mangled now.
Will and Grace Family Guy doesn't know what that is.
But anyway, yeah, to get something. So I always,
Yeah.
I see it as, you know what, I got to do what I wanted to do, you know, and I had it, and it's out, and it exists the way I want it, and it's still, you know, up on the platform. And I'm like, great, you know. I'm
Oh,
also
yeah.
like, you know, moving on. Like I'm kind of ready, you know.
You're
you
ready
get
to move on
upset.
from
It's
that,
like,
yeah.
yeah. You kind of, I'm like, I'm done with the royal family anyway. I'm like, you know, yeah.
So this is the third time that you are a New York Times best-selling author.
This
is that
sounds
correct?
very Oprah-esque.
That right? Don't you like it?
Where's my camera?
Don't you like this?
Yeah. Oh,
So-
yes, it is.
So talk to me about how did this happen? We were experiencing a slight delay. Travel wisdom. Where did
Yeah.
where did and insights? Where did this idea come from?
It's a lot of it is just memoir, essays of previous trips that I took. And I knew this particular year that I also wrote the book around, I was going to be taking a lot of trips. And I thought, I want to document them, and maybe there will be something in it.
One of the best insights that you talk about, and this is like genius, very, I could argue, Jewy in a certain way.
I know which one it is.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. I mean, I think.
It's how to get
Yeah.
2 nights at a hotel,
Yeah.
2 days at a hotel for the price of one.
Yeah.
Explain this.
Well,
Genius.
when I was in my
Genius, Gary.
20s,
Genius.
and I didn't have any money to travel. Like I was a bellman, as I was saying, when I was your age, I was a bellman. And I remember once, you know, like I was such an idiot. I remember I did something for like I got a huge tip because I filled in for somebody on some kind of job that they needed because I looked like the person who canceled at the hotel, and they paid me $500 cash.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and I thought, I didn't think of any like saving it. No, I was like,
There was white
I'm going on a trip.
There was white powder on it.
Yeah,
But,
yeah. I was like, I'll take it.
Yeah.
But I was like, how do I turn this into more?
Uh-huh.
What do I? But I would go on a trip and I would stay in the cheapest place there was to stay. But I would always look for the cheapest place while I was there because at the time that you couldn't look on the internet the way you could now, so there was less available to us.
Yeah.
So I'm talking of the 90s, and you could find like a cheap hotel, but why not get the room that faced the ocean, right? If you found like, why wouldn't I want? I'm like, fine. So I always found the best of the worst, and then I would find the one place that I wanted to stay and spend my money on one night.
Right.
And I remember in this particular case, I talk about the Four Seasons
Brilliant.
on the Big Island of Hawaii, which had just opened, and it was like, oh my God. And I think it was like $600 at the time or $700 a night. But I was like, you get there, and so you stay in a cheap place for 6 nights, one night. You stay there, but you get 2 days out of it. You get there, like having worked in a hotel, I know all the tricks. You
Yeah.
get there at like 9 o'clock in the morning, they store your bags, and you use the whole hotel. I'm a guest. You use everything that's free, you wring out of it. All those Four Seasons, there's always a cocktail hour. The gym is always filled
Can you use
with
the shower in the spa?
Yeah, you make sure you get the free breakfast. And you
Brilliant.
turn that into 2 meals. You don't even have to pay for food. You can just take your lunch from the breakfast.
Do you worry that because you're exposing all these travel secrets that Gary Janetti, who is a star now, will be at the Four Seasons, and some Armandi type manager will look at you suspiciously and say, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You
No,
are
I
paying
don't
for
know.
one day and you're not going to squeeze me
That
for 2.
was young Gary, so it's okay. And nobody cares. The people who work in hotels don't care. And you check out, the checkout is at noon. You never need to get out at noon.
Yeah.
You can always say, and they'll say 1. They'll always say 1. You can always get to 1.
Or you start
really
packing your bags at
I
noon,
know
as you say.
they turn the keys off now, so just make sure you're back in the room before they turn the key off.
Yes.
But you can always stay till like 3. You can always stay till 3 without a charge. And what I'll do is then I'll just be like, I'm like, Brad, they were really
Your husband,
big
Brad?
dicks about it. Yes, I'd be like, for some reason, the key's only going to work till 1 because they just said 1, so I don't want to deal with anything else to get the key. So it says, so we'll go back to the room at 1, and then we'll stay in the room until 3. Like we'll pack, we'll shower, we'll do all of that stuff, and then we'll leave at 3. And just be like, oh, sorry, running late.
As another example
Yeah,
of
it's fine. You've got the whole day.
These
Yeah, don't-
observations and thoughts are out there.
Nobody will ever do anything. Again, having worked in a hotel, I know this to be a fact.
Yes.
They're not charging you if you stay till 3 o'clock.
So in a hotel room, when you're there and they say there's no other rooms available,
Yeah.
that's a lie?
Okay. It depends on, it's not always a lie. It depends on what you're there for. If they say if it's a big hotel, it's typically a lie.
Okay.
And that means, but also, it might be all the rooms are accounted for, but you could still swap me out with somebody else. The greasy wheel gets the oil. Yeah, you need to I always think of it as, like, what room were you thinking of giving me?
Yeah.
Where, don't leave the front desk.
As much as I love the handicapped bathroom with the lever.
Don't leave the front desk until you have. And if you've got a trainee, I mean, you're fucked because they don't know. You need somebody with a little power. You need somebody who's going to be able to be like, oh, this guy is going to be a real pain in the ass.
Yeah.
I see what he's going to be like. I don't want to be dealing with this for the next 5 days. So I'm just going to give him the room that I know has the window and the bathroom and the terrace and that faces the view, as opposed to try to stick him in the back, that's facing the alley, because even though it's the same category, you know what I mean? Yeah, so I always try to suss it out at the desk. By the time I'm going up to that room, I have a real good idea what that looks like. And then even then, when I get in that room, it's like, I'll be like, don't touch anything. Just like, let me put the bag down. Like, don't touch a thing. Let's make sure, we're staying here. Because I'll often then be like, hey, I just checked in and, yeah.
If you could travel to Quahog,
Yeah.
whose home would you stay at, Gary Janetti?
Oh, yeah, I would say with the Pewter Schmitz.
You would?
Yeah.
Well, of course. Well, that's kind of a cop-out. That's an obvious answer.
Oh, well, yeah, do they live in Quahog?
They don't count.
actually.
In Quahog. They're in Rhode Island.
Yeah. Well, Quahog.
They're in Newport.
Yeah, they're in Newport. You're
So
right.
in Quahog, who do you stay with?
Oh,
Quagmire's got a nice pad.
I'd probably stay at Quagmire's house. He'd probably stay at his house. 'Cause
Would
he's a
anything
little-
happen, or would you just
He's
stay?
a little prissy about how I love Quagmire, and I love the way he developed over the years too. He's a character.
What would you do at Quagmire's?
Yeah. What would I do there? I don't know. I just feel like it would be a base
Yeah, you would just
to
hang out.
explore. I would be
Yeah.
literally just sleeping there.
Yeah.
But I just feel like, it would be, I mean, I would also have to deal with whatever was coming and going, but I still feel like it would be the cleanest house.
You wouldn't want to stay at Herbert's.
I wouldn't. No. That's another, talk about something that, it's from another time.
Oh, you think?
that
Herbert the pervert? Oh no. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, but his song, that's kind of a riff on
Looks
Somewhere That's
like-
Green, or is it Somewhere That's Green?
I think it might
Exactly.
be.
I think it's exactly that.
Crocker.
Yeah. It's exactly Somewhere That's Green, and it's poignant, which is a tribute
incredible.
to Mike Henry too. That he could make
Mike Henry,
that
genius.
character a poignant. Yeah. But that's
Oh
what
my
I'd say.
God. What's one thing that we haven't seen you do yet that Gary Janetti really hopes to get done?
Oh, I'd kind of like to write a play.
Really?
Yeah.
Dramatic or comedic?
Comedic.
Yes.
Matt.
You'll cast me.
Dramatic or
Thank you so
comedic.
much.
Yes, I'll definitely have you come in. Yes, Matt Friend, please.
You can read-
Matt,
you can
hi.
read.
Remember, it's the pod. I haven't seen you since the podcast. That was a long podcast.
Yeah, you can audition. You're not hired, but welcome.
Happy to see you.
Happy to see you.
It's been
These
a
are the
while.
sides. Go fuck yourself after this.
Yeah,
Yes.
totally. No, I think that would be something that I'd
That'd
kinda
be
like to do.
amazing. Like in New York?
Yeah.
Yeah, New
Yeah,
York.
not in LA.
You're not in
Oh,
LA. That'd be
yeah.
very depressing.
So depressing.
Horrible.
Horrible.
You
nightmare.
can't.
No, New York
No.
City. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be really.
Broadway. Yeah.
Well, I also think it'd be like contemporary. You'd have a lot of topical insights, right? Or would it be set now, or would it be like an old? Let's get into it.
Yeah, would it be set now? Yeah, it would be set now, totally.
It would be.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. I want to go see that.
All right, you'll come opening night.
Okay, good.
Yeah, you
Well, we
do.
have 3 hours left.
Okay, perfect.
But
Jeez.
is there anything as we near the end here? Is there anything that people should know that you're working on, that you want people to follow you, or where should people?
Yeah, I
see
don't
you?
care if people follow
great.
me or don't. It's fine. I'm tired. It's fine. People can follow. They don't have to.
As long as they're not wearing casual attire on a plane.
Yeah. Also, oh my God, I got such shit. People, it's like, relax, everybody. And also, I didn't say not casual attire. I wasn't talking. It was just like, you've been to an airport. I don't have to. I'm not. This is not a news flash that people. You look pretty disgusting, and it's also and then to go back to the luggage. What if this is how you dress at the airport? I don't see why you need 3 suitcases.
Yeah.
What's in the suitcases?
Yeah.
Wear one of those things to the airport.
Is it
at
more
least.
stained T-shirts?
Yeah, it's like a disgusting sweatpants.
You want to bring
and
back
t-shirt.
50s attire
Yeah,
on
with
airplanes.
with flipped. No, not 50s. I'd go back to the 90s.
The 90s.
Or the aughts. It's like slippers, a pillow. Like it's a 3-hour flight. Relax. Like you can sit in actually a shirt with buttons.
You could.
Yeah.
Wear a tuxedo. Screw it.
Yeah. But no, people.
How would you
people
react
didn't
if you
like.
saw a guy in a tuxedo on a plane next to you on a 6-hour flight?
Well, I would think they were going to something kind of fabulous as soon as they landed, or had just came. It would depend on what condition the tuxedo.
Yeah, what
was in.
condition, yes.
Is it somebody who had slept in a tuxedo, or is it somebody who was looked? I would be like, oh, it's nice. That's nice. That's elevated this. Anything that elevates it a slight notch towards humanity, I'll take. Like where it feels like you have a little
your next
bit
book.
of
A slight notch towards
so a
humanity.
the tiniest bit of dignity.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, somebody's in a tuxedo. That's nice.
Okay. Last
Yeah.
question
Yes.
would be, there have been, and again, I know we talked a lot about Family Guy. I'm just obsessed with it. But there's so many celebrity cameos. Has there been one celebrity that's done a cameo on Family Guy that has been particularly weird experience?
Not weird.
Or fun?
In that Kate Blanchett did it. And it wasn't weird. I loved it. I wrote the episode. It was called Mr. and Mrs. Stewie, and Stewie meets a female version of him, I think is it. And I wanted Kate Blanchett because, I'm gay. And obviously that was who I wanted. I'm like, who else would you want? And also, this is, 10 years ago, I think.
Yes.
And they were like, at the time, like, oh, I don't think we're not going to get Kate Blanchett's not going to do it. She just won an Oscar. Like, she's not going to do Family Guy. And I was like, she has 3 sons. I bet anything she's going to do the show. Yeah, it was like a yes and a day because she had 3 sons who watched the show, and she was, you know, brilliant, obviously. So that I was very excited about that. I was
That's
like, oh,
incredible.
yeah. So,
Oh
like,
my
yeah.
God. Well, Gary, I have to say, as we wrap up, I'm so grateful that you took the time. I'm such a huge fan, and thank you. It means a lot. I look up to you. I think you're brilliant, and the insights are so spot on, and the writing is far better than anything I could ever do. So thank you so much for being here.
Thanks, Matt. You're
I really,
very
really
kind.
appreciate it.
I've enjoyed these hours together. Thank you.
Gary Janetti, thank you.
Thanks, Matt. All right, are we?
Oh my God.
Are we done? Are we still filming?
I think so.
Okay.